All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, to wherever you are joining from. Thanks again so much for your time. I'm Dr. Leah, and I'm going to be sharing some information with you over the next bit of time together. And we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. Certainly expecting that some other folks may join in, but certainly we'll have time to answer any questions that you have. Hopefully this will be informative for you wherever you're at on your EPPP journey. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump in. You all will just have to make sure, let me know if you can see presentation. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you confirming. All right, great. So I will do my best to monitor the chat, but if you have any immediate questions as I'm going through, or you can't hear me or whatever it may be, feel free to unmute and let me know. Otherwise, we'll kind of just keep plugging through. But yeah, like I said, we'll have time at the end for Q&A. And yeah, happy to help you however I can. So this is going to be primarily about the EPPP coaching circle, but we'll also talk a little bit about our one-on-one tutoring and kind of our different offerings there to help support folks along their EPPP journey. So for our time together today, we'll start with, I'll introduce myself, and then we'll do a little bit of overview of the program, what it includes, specifically the live sessions. We'll talk a little bit about the Vimeo video showcases, and then we'll talk a little bit about what the Facebook group includes or entails. We'll talk about pricing, how to join, and then we'll end kind of talking about one-on-one support and have time for question and answer at the end. All right, so to start, just want to give you a little bit of background on Psychologists of Color. So Psychologists of Color is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The mission is to increase the racial and ethnic diversity of the psychologist workforce by supporting future and current psychologists of color. So I'll talk in a moment about kind of how Psychologists of Color and the EPPP coaching circle are related to one another. But first, just want to introduce myself. So as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Leah. You can just call me Leah, but a little bit about my background. So I took the EPPP in 2019 and then joined Dr. Jordan's team in 2021 and have been providing both one-on-one and group coaching for the EPPP since that time. Have logged hundreds of hours of tutoring at this point. And I really enjoy it. I think one of the most, certainly one of the most rewarding things is, when I can help folks pass and get over that, 500 score threshold, but also, just helping folks learn and really understand and grasp material and working on study strategies and all of those things, trying to make it kind of fun and engaging, even though I know most people don't think about the EPPP as being particularly fun. So moving along, so talking a little bit about the coaching circle itself, right? So Dr. Jordan sometimes joins me for these info sessions, and she talks a little bit about kind of how this group got started, really. But this idea, she had this idea to start the EPPP coaching circle to kind of really help meet folks where they're at along their journey to passing the EPPP. So she put together this resource hub and essentially a support group to really help psychologists have skills, tools, and support needed to prepare for and pass the EPPP, right? So, one of the things that's interesting as I reflect on, all of the, I think if we think about it like a recipe, right? All of the ingredients that are really needed to help the EPPP, right? It's not just one thing. It's not just, having brains, right? We're all smart, right? But there's a lot of skill involved. It's not just, understanding the material, because we have to be able to apply the material, right? So that's another ingredient, is kind of applying the material, right? We also have to think about, our family network and our support structure, right? Can those around us help make time and support us through this journey? Because it certainly can be really taxing physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially, right? So it often takes a village for folks to pass the EPPP, right? Think about the people in your lives who are hopefully really supportive of you and your journey, right? So, and that's not all the ingredients I would say that it takes to help pass the EPPP, but certainly it is absolutely possible to pass. And, we feel really strongly that the coaching circle and our one-on-one tutoring can really help folks get there, and help them with whatever it is that they need along their journey. So when it comes down to it, like I mentioned, purpose is really to help psychologists pass the EPPP, right? It's not a one size fits all. When I think about the journeys of many of the folks that I've worked with to get there, right? Some are fresh out of grad school. Some are more than a decade out of grad school. Some have taken the exam for the first time. Others have taken the exam, a double digits amount of time. And so again, everyone is at a different place in their journey, right? But when we think about, again, what we can provide, what we can help to get you there, right? It's not only the educational benefits, how to take the test, right? How to better understand the test, how to understand what is this question actually asking, right? How to find the best answer when there are multiple correct answers, right? What makes one answer better than the other? And that is really, I think, where the test taking strategy comes in, right? There's also study strategies, right? Getting this sort of downloading this massive amount of information, right? We can't be expected to know everything, right? But how do we sort of strategize? How do we study in a way that helps the information to stick and is retained, so we don't feel like we're going over the same things again and again and again and feeling like we're reading it for the first time? And then we also work a lot on domain specific knowledge. I'll talk a little bit about kind of the video showcases that we have, right? But, like I said, we certainly can't be experts in everything, nor should we. But the domains can really, they get pretty specific, right? And so what we aim to do with the working in the particular domains is figure out, okay, what are the important things that we want folks to know from these particular domains? How can we distill that information? How can we help folks make connections between informations both within the domains and across the various domains? So certainly working on just like nuts and bolts of the material and of the test. And then also the emotional benefits, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it can be a really challenging and taxing experience to take the test, right? And, just knowing the information isn't enough. So having that support, having that community, right? Helping ourselves to kind of push through, stick to our study plan as best as we can, right? Helping to feel motivated, optimistic, hopeful, right? That doesn't mean that everyone feels like that, all of the time, or even probably half the time, right? But, finding those little tidbits of hope and optimism that kind of keep us going, especially when the journey gets particularly challenging. So moving on, talk a little bit about the history. I mentioned this a moment ago, but it was formed in the beginning. The coaching circle was formed in the beginning of 2020 by Dr. Jordan Trockman. You'll often heard her called Dr. Jordan. She wears many hats. She is the founder and president of Psychologists of Color. She is the owner and founder of EPPP Tutoring, and then also the owner and founder of California Women's Therapy. So the EPPP Coaching Circle started as this freestanding program that was independent of California Women's Therapy and of Psychologists of Color. Over time, the coaching circle then partnered with Psychologists of Color, and then most recently was acquired by Psychologists of Color. So the nice thing is we have folks who hear about the coaching circle through many different avenues, through Psychologists of Color. Some folks find us online, some are referred from previous clients. So we're really happy to be bringing folks together from lots of different avenues who have heard about us and who are on their own EPPP journey. One of the sort of hallmark features of our coaching circle are our live sessions. These all take place on WebEx or Zoom through video. So some folks participate with their camera on, other folks participate with their camera off. It's entirely based on what you're comfortable with. We schedule these about 1 to 2 times per month. So around the beginning of the month, on Facebook, we'll post what the days and times are for the live sessions. Generally, they're evenings or weekends. We have folks joining us from not only across the United States, but Canada as well, and sometimes vastly different time zones. So we try to make times like we're having today that hopefully accommodate various folks' schedules, but we're also pretty open and amenable to being flexible. So if you have particular times, like if you're super keen on attending and you really want to make it, you can let us know if there are particular days or times that tend to work better for you. Sometimes we do Saturdays or Sundays. We've steered away actually a little bit from doing it during the week, just because I know sometimes that can get a little bit busy. But again, glad to be flexible, try to figure out what works for the majority of folks. So what do the live sessions look like, right? The nice thing, like I mentioned, I've been doing this for over 2 years now. And we sort of figure out, okay, what's going to be the most beneficial in our live session format. So sometimes we do sort of didactic training. We'll talk about, like I mentioned earlier, some of the test content, right? Sometimes we'll focus on study skills. Sometimes we'll talk about test taking strategies, and we'll actually bring up EPPP questions and talk through them together, right? We'll do people vote on what answer they think, right? And then we'll sort of talk, why do you think it's that answer? What about this one, right? So having that sort of open discussion or forum to really wrestle with and kind of noodle on these questions, like I said, because we have to figure out the best answer, even if there's multiple answers that's well, that's correct, but then what makes the other answer maybe even better? Right? So we aim to make these live sessions pretty interactive. One thing that I do want to mention is that we don't offer sort of a program of moving through the material, right? So we always do recommend that folks purchase a standalone program, whether it's, AATVS, ATAB, Psych Prep, PrepJet, Academic Review. You may have heard of these different programs, right? So what we offer through these live sessions is, we'll talk about particular content, but we don't sort of move through a program in that we would be like, okay, we're starting with assessment and then we're going to move to, biobases, for example. So always recommend that folks purchase their own kind of standalone program, but we have this information that we provide in the didactic training to really help, like I said, kind of this information come to life. I also more recently have been offering what I call office hours, right? So I join for the hour and I have folks kind of come and go. You don't have to RSVP sometimes we do RSVPs, but you don't have to, stay for the whole hour if you can't make it. If you just want to come on, ask a particular question, and then you need to hop off, that's totally fine. But I make myself available for any questions like you may see, talk about, help me figure out more about, classical conditioning, or, let's talk about type 1 and type 2 error, right? That's information that I'm happy to talk through on the office hours. Also happy to talk through what's the testing environment like, right? I know all the test centers can be different, right? But what are some of the things that you could expect if you, for example, going in for your first test? So office hours, super flexible. No particular structure to those, but happy to answer questions as folks join for that office hour. And then we also have guest speakers, right? Sometimes this is other tutors or coaches. So for example, I mentioned Psych Prep a moment ago. We have had Dr. Sharon Jablon, who created as one of our guest speakers. We've also had folks who are experts in particular areas, right? So we've had someone who is a neuropsychologist who did two different sessions on movement disorders and neurocognitive disorders. So sometimes we have guest speakers with expertise or who are tutors or coaches themselves. And then oftentimes we'll also have guest speakers as members who have passed, right? Folks who have either been working with Dr. Jordan, myself, or the other team of tutors who've successfully passed, come back, kind of share their story. Or people who are part of the coaching circle will come back. This is a really neat opportunity. And when I mentioned earlier, this journey can be long and challenging, and it's really hard, I think, to find hope and optimism, especially if people have taken the test many, many times. And, how do I keep kind of pushing through? How do I figure out what's going to work for me? And the nice thing about, talking with members who have passed, right? Everyone has a different journey. They come on, they talk about, here's what's worked for me here. This didn't work for me, right? Here's, the program that I used. I like this program better than that program, right? So it's so nice to have our past members who've passed come back and talk to the group. So the live sessions look pretty different depending on what we have scheduled, but we're always open to feedback. And if you want to talk about a particular topic, please let us know. We're really open and excited to like I said, meet you where you're at, figure out what would be most helpful for you all. So the live sessions offered in a supportive group setting, right? I get tired of hearing myself talk, so I often facilitate, but I try to have an opportunity in a sort of a forum for folks to learn from one another. So someone may say, hey, I'm not having much benefit from this program. What do others think about this other program, right? And so I'll share my opinion, but oftentimes we'll open it up and figure out, okay, what do others think? What are you liking? What are you disliking about particular programs, for example? Certainly opportunities to learn from the speakers. Many of them are kind enough to share their email, and folks will follow up with them after and be able to ask them more questions as well. The other thing that's nice about our live sessions is you can connect with other psychologists who are also preparing for the EPPP, right? So this lends itself really well to meeting study buddies, being able to form small study groups. And, we're, as you may have noticed, or you will learn a little bit more about, we're a private group, as opposed to, some of the huge online Facebook groups where they're not private, anyone can join, right? We really like that this is a small, supportive group who are really there to help and uplift one another. So like I mentioned, private members only. When you join the Facebook group, you get access to a variety of different things. So I talked about the live sessions, but through Facebook, we have PDF versions of all of the presentations that we've given. We have over 50 at this point, and we're still continuing to create more. You have access to all of those, right? So in addition to, your own resources, it's really nice to be able to download these. What's especially helpful about the PDF versions is that there's a lot of information on the slides themselves, right? So I'll talk in a moment about the live or the Vimeo showcases, but the PDFs, right, can be used as a really nice standalone study tool themselves. If you are someone who, though, you're like, I really want to make it more interactive, I want someone to present this, to see someone presenting this information. That's where the Vimeo showcases are particularly helpful. So I'll talk a little bit about what's within the Vimeo showcases, but essentially these are videos of almost all of the previous presentations that we have given. So the group sessions, we will record those. We don't record the office hours, but the presentations, the guest speakers, all of those things we record. And then, so if you're not able to attend, we'll post the recording. You can go back, you can watch that at a future date. And so, like I said, there are dozens and dozens of videos available through Vimeo. Also have the live sessions. We have, on the Facebook group, we'll post announcements. So like I said, when new groups are, when the coaching circle groups are going to be taking place, we'll post that information. We also, there's an opportunity for a discussion thread. So sometimes folks will post and say, I successfully passed, does anyone want some tips on what was helpful for me? Or, someone will post a really helpful resource, for example, on, understanding seizures, right? And so you have access to the whole discussion thread. And like I said, tons of resources that are posted fairly regularly as well. This is the link to our to the EPPP coaching circle through Facebook. So the Vimeo showcases, the reason why they're called Vimeo showcases is they are hosted on a platform called Vimeo. So you may see that. I mentioned that we have tons and tons of recordings. We are still in the process of recording more, which is something that we have planned. We have our calendar starting our planning for 2024, what that's going to look like, and sort of figuring out, okay, what are some areas that we want to delve more into? What are some areas that we kind of want to beef up and add more content to? IO is specifically one of those areas. So you'll notice we only have 2 recordings. We do have the PDF presentations created, that we just haven't actually recorded those yet in a live format, but we have that planned. We've got, again, you can see here across many different areas, we have recordings. And then we also, so again, these are across all of the different domains. And then, like I said, we also have our test taking strategies, several recordings on study strategies, and then 24 recordings to date on guest speakers. So like I said, under the guest speakers umbrella is not only folks who successfully passed and talked about, you know, their story and how they passed, but also folks who are experts, again, in particular content areas, we also sometimes will have other tutors or coaches who are not even part of our EPPP group or our one-on-one tutors, but are from other companies, will come in and talk with us. So we really want to share information and resources, even if it's outside of the EPPP coaching circle, to really help folks be successful at passing the exam. So how do you get to be a member, right? Or I'm sorry, what does your membership entail, right? So it covers the following. Hopefully some of this stuff is sounding familiar, some things that I mentioned a moment ago, but you're able to attend our live sessions, our virtual group meetings. Like I said, and you notice today, links are posted, so you're just able to, easily click the link and join the session, have access to our members only Facebook group with the presentations, the resources, other folks who are in the group. You'll be able to see their, name and Facebook contact information, and then links and passwords to all our Vimeo recording showcases, both domain content, strategies, and then stories from folks. So our original pricing structure was $79 for a one-time donation. After that first month, then it was $49 a month. And we encourage folks to have this be a recurring donation of $49, right? So now that the structure has changed and we're part of the 501c3 Psychologists of Color, Inc., it's considered a tax deductible donation to join the EPPP coaching circle. So really, again, we do not want costs to be a barrier, or we're trying to minimize the degree to which costs are a barrier as much as possible. So our goal is for the coaching circle to be accessible to all psychologists in need of this support, regardless of your financial situation, but also, we want to, like I said, offer this help and support to as many people as possible. So your membership fees become tax deductible donations, which really helps support our mission to increase racial and ethnic diversity of the psychologist workforce by not only supporting our current psychologists, but those who are, going to be joining us in the future. So you'll notice on the website, the donation form, you can either select at the top here monthly or a one-time donation. You can select your amount, or you can select any amount that you would like to donate. If you're not able to donate at this time, that is okay too. We are very, very happy to have you in the EPPP coaching circle. This is where you can get a little bit more information, psychologistofcolor.com/EPPP-support. And so I've mostly to this point talked about our EPPP coaching circle, which is, again, a group, right? But a group isn't always what's right or best for people at particular times. So we also offer one-on-one support. So in addition to, like I said, groups being once or twice a month, we're meeting with folks one-on-one every single week, likely multiple times, often multiple times a week. And so, those who are considering one-on-one support versus the group, you know, again, this is not an exhaustive list of some things to consider. And again, you know, one of those things I think is also, you know, do you have a solid study plan, right? So, you know, do you want someone to really sit down with you, help you figure out what's working, what's not working, how much time, you know, like, should you be studying, right? Again, that's very, very different for different folks, right? What's going to work with your schedule and what's not, right? Taking a moment to think about how strong are your test taking skills, right? So like I said, in the group, we don't follow any particular structure where we talk about, you know, this month or this week, we're talking about test taking strategies. And, you know, we bounce around to a lot of different things. So depending on when you're joining, you may or may not, you know, we may or may not be talking about the particular area or the particular domain where you're wanting a lot of help. So if you really want someone to dive into test taking skills or strategies with you, one-on-one may be better. Are you struggling with particular domains, right? Are you someone, again, you know, I'll talk a little bit about the one-on-one that I offer, but, you know, vast majority of folks that I work with, they're, and I think probably more so across the board, not just folks that I work with, test construction and statistics are often not their forte. Many people maybe didn't learn too much about statistics, or if they did, you know, not really applying it, and how, you know, how are all these kind of concepts tied into one another. Stats can certainly feel like a foreign language, right? So I do offer sort of specific tutoring on stats and test construction, as well as other domains, right? Making sense of things that, you know, trying to help folks put the puzzle pieces together in a way that is going to help it stick. Do you need some more help with, you know, managing test anxiety, right? Sometimes it's talking with someone about, you know, what are the coping skills that you're leveraging, right? How do you help yourself, you know, during the test, calm down? You know, even particular things like tackling the test, right? How many breaks should you take? When should you take breaks, right? Again, should is really relative because everyone is very, very different, right? Are you feeling discouraged, right? Would you benefit from accountability? You know, so sometimes, again, working at one-on-one with folks is great, but sometimes that group environment is also really, really nice, right? Hearing from people who you may feel like, oh, we're really at a similar stage in our test taking journey, right? So, you know, sometimes that accountability and you know, working with folks who you feel like maybe are at a similar place, or you could learn more from their journey, you know, you may feel like group is a better fit for you. And then lastly, will your budget allow for individualized support? So one-on-one support is certainly more costly than the group support. So that's certainly something to consider. And so if you are thinking more about private or one-on-one EPPP tutoring, we have 4 tutors who are available currently, including myself. And you'll see Dr. Jordan here, Dr. Elizabeth Bistrong, and Dr. Rebecca Heron, all 4 wonderful tutors who are available. And if you go to drjordan.com, you'll be able to access more information about our one-on-one tutoring. We have an intake form that just allows us to get a little bit more information about, you know, have you taken the test before? Do you have a test date scheduled? What areas are you looking to improve in? Are there particular things that you're looking for in a tutor that you feel like would be really helpful? And so that allows us to get more information, and then that can be really helpful in, you know, in matching you with a tutor. Sometimes it just comes down to like, who has the similar availability as me, but we do our best to try to make matches that we feel like will really be successful, and again, meet folks where they're at. Also included Dr. Jordan's information here, Dr. Jordan at epptutoring.com. So if you have any questions as well. So with that, I know I've been talking for a while, so I want to go ahead and this is the last slide that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the sharing and just want to open it up for folks. Feel free if you would like to, I can access the chat more easily now. So if you have questions that you want to type in the chat, feel free, or you can unmute yourself and ask questions that way, whatever you're the most comfortable with. I'm also going to add my email in the chat here. So if folks have questions that you think of later on, please feel free to reach out to me. I know sometimes this, journey, right? We don't always, when we have an opportunity to ask questions, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that until later on, right? So I'll add my email in the chat, but it is drleah@eppp-tutoring.com. So same structure as Dr. Jordan's email, drleah@eppp-tutoring.com. So that is in the chat. Oh, okay. Great question from someone in the chat. So where did you say we can find the resources and materials? So if you go to the group, if you are not yet a member, you will have to join. You have to join to be able to see the resources. But under your view may look a little bit different than mine, but under the files tab at the top is where you will see all of the PDFs of the various presentations that we've given. And then on the discussion thread, you will see we posted the latest post I put on August 20th are all of the Vimeo showcases, including the password there as well. So on Facebook, either in the discussion or in the tabs across the top in the files tab is where you can find the PDFs. And if you ever can't find anything, feel free. You can always send me a direct message on Facebook too. Happy to help. What if you don't have Facebook? So Facebook is the only way to access the group. So I would recommend making a free Facebook account. But Jasmine, who helps with she provides so much admin support for us, and we're really grateful for that. She also sends out emails of when the events are happening too. So if you were more interested, yeah, exactly. We also have our mailing list if you don't have Facebook. So if you're like, I'm not as interested in the resources and tools that are available on Facebook or the discussion, but I really want to join the live sessions, you can certainly access them through that way. But yeah, feel free if you want to make a Facebook account to be able to access it. That's certainly an option. You're very welcome. All right. Well, any other lingering last minute thoughts, questions, concerns? I hope that this has been helpful for you. And yeah, if you think of any questions, please feel free to reach out. All the very best of luck to you all, wherever you are at in your journey. Thank you again so much for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time out, and hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.